My name is Ashley. I am the Vice President of Communications with MPI BC chapter. I do think I know a lot of you, so that's nice, friendly faces. I work very closely with Darren, who is our VP of Education and has put this event together for us, which is amazing. We're all very excited to get connected and to learn more from the two gentlemen being our guests today.
Okay.
Hi, my name's Shayla. I'm with ILEA Vancouver. I was on the ETU team working on the in-person event, and of course that had to be canceled. So we're happy to keep this virtual learning going. Welcome.
Perfect. Hello, folks. Stephen Melville here. I'm president of the Fraser Valley Event Planning Association. I just want to thank Darren Drager for having our association get on board for co-hosting this event. So we're excited to support the ETU event and are happy to continuing the education for our members. I'm really excited to learn from the guys that Get Connected about how they pivoted their radio and TV show in this current conditions. And I'm also interested in learning more about how looking good and sounding good in my home office can happen. So I'm really looking forward to this. So Yvonne, over to you.
Thanks, Stephen. Hi, everyone. My name is Yvonne. I am the Director of Education for PCMA Canada West. And just like all the other associations, I'm so excited to see so many of you come out for this. We are so sad that we weren't able to have ETU in person, but I see so many familiar names and faces on the call today, so that's great. Now, I'm really excited to introduce our guests for today. We have Mike Agerbo and John Biehler. Mike and John are going to talk about how they're producing their TV and radio shows and provide some helpful tips on how to look good and sound good in your home office, which I know can be a struggle sometimes. I know Sean Chang has called me out for having laundry in the back of my Zoom calls sometimes. Their topics include camera positions, different tools, podcasting, how to make videos, soundcast, and so much more. We invite you guys to ask questions throughout the session in the chat box. Please state which association you are affiliated with and along with your question, and we'll also provide time to ask live questions at the end. So over to you, Mike and John.
Well, thank you very much. For those that are not overly familiar with us, we've been doing all kinds of radio and TV shows for many years now. We're currently producing a weekly series called Get Connected TV that can be seen on Channel 6 or Check TV here in British Columbia. We also have gone really heavy online, producing tons of content for our YouTube channel and also our Smart TV channel up on Roku TV as well. We have been doing the radio show for many years now. I think I've been doing Get Connected Radio on CKNW 980 in Vancouver here, I think for about 20 years now, and that's an hour-long show every Saturday morning from 10 to 11. We recently added another show Sunday mornings from 10 to 11 called The App Show. As you can imagine, it's about apps. John, I've known him for many years, and he recently joined the Get Connected team over a year ago. So we've done some great stuff together. So yeah, just wanted to kind of chat about what we're using to produce our shows, especially in this environment right now. There's a lot of great tech tools to really help make any type of podcast or broadcast that you're trying to do look professional. John, anything you want to add before we get into it?
No, I think that's pretty much everything. The big challenges that we've encountered, I think, translate to a lot of the audience's situations, taking their events online, but also looking forward to when we do finally get to have an in-person event again. Some of this stuff just still definitely translates, especially if you want to capture that event for those that aren't there after the fact.
Yeah, before we get kind of into the more broadcasty side, just some basic tips, just even for Zoom calls, all these online meetings that we seem to be having a million of nowadays. I think I have about 10 Zoom meetings a day. I don't think I've ever met so much in my in my career, getting a little bit of Zoom fatigue. But, it's important to, I think, put your best foot forward as far as the overall look and feel of the calls that you're doing. A lot of people are just typically using the built-in camera in their laptops. Maybe they've got those all-in-one computers at home. I would recommend, if it's not one of these high-def cameras, actually going out and, if you can find one, purchasing one of the external webcams that are available, especially ones that do HD or 4K. It makes a dramatic difference in the overall video quality of what you're presenting. I've, in my kitchen here, my new home studio, I've got an all-in-one computer I'm using as my kind of recording studio and Zoom call center. The camera on it was kind of crappy, so I upgraded and I got a Logi or a Logitech HD camera. Also, your phone is an excellent camera as well. If you've got any of the new smartphones out in the market right now, I've got one of the new iPhone 11s, but the new iPhone SE, a lot of the Android phones, they're capable of recording in 4K as well. When I do my global TV news hits, a couple times a week, I basically am using the 4K camera on my smartphone, and it looks fantastic. So again, don't underestimate how powerful your smartphone is for making calls. And also, if you are doing Zoom calls, and we can talk about presentations as well. I also have one of these ring lights that I got off of Amazon. This makes a huge difference in the lighting. And I'll just show you an example once I put my camera back on here. This thing here went, I think for about $50. It's got a number of different light settings. You can adjust the color temperature of the light as well. And it's got a little stand here for your cell phone to clamp in on. But the lighting makes a big difference. You can see in my room right now, I got a lot of backlighting going on. So I'm going to turn the ring light off. It does make a difference as far as the overall video quality goes.
Mike, I'm going to just show this little ring light that I got on Amazon. I'm not using it right now. I'm using a proper broadcast light beside me just so I could show this. But this was $25, and it comes with a little clip for your phone. It clips onto anything, makes a huge difference. And like you said, matching the color is really important as well. Also the placement. You can see in my glasses, the ring light. That's fine if you're not wearing glasses because it'll just be a small little pupil light. But putting it up above definitely fills in a lot of the problems that people have typically. And I can't tell how many times I've been watching even like national news segments where they have a guest, a doctor or somebody, and they're using their laptop in a darkened closet, it looks like. So just get a light, any light.
Also, audio is a big thing that you want to think about. I'm using like a $300 condenser mic right now. That's why my voice probably sounds nice and smooth. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But even something simple as like I've got these headphones on right now. Most of these headphones have got the little microphone built in. It makes a dramatic difference from just basically using the microphone in your laptop. Typically, if you're using the microphone that's in your laptop or your computer, I mean, it's okay, but it's picking up all the ambient noise around, and it typically very, very echoey. So when we're doing our radio recordings and our podcast recordings, we always get the guests to put on, if they have them, like, just even a basic pair of earbuds with microphones. And again, night and day difference. Again, for Zoom calls, making them look good. If you've got a crappy background, a lot of these video chatting programs now have the virtual background feature. Look at John there right now. John, where did you get your background?
So a lot of companies are actually taking their catalogs and making their sets available as free downloads. This is actually from Behr, the paint company. This is the backdrop from them. IKEA has a whole huge catalog of virtual backgrounds of their product sets that are used in the catalog. And even some of your favorite TV shows from the BBC and other places have, you can have the TARDIS as your backdrop. Anything looks better than your bedroom, basically. But going back to Mike's point about the cameras, one big thing that we see a lot of people doing is they'll put their laptop on a table and they'll shoot the video up their nose, basically. Put your laptop on a stand of some kind, even if it's a pile of phone books or whatever, and just angle it so that it's a little bit more at eye level, looking straight on, like I am. I'm using my laptop's camera on purpose just to show you this right now. And so that really improves the connection you're having, and also you're focused on looking straight ahead at the camera as opposed to looking down at probably the video preview of somebody else or yourself, which can be a distraction as well.
Just want to maybe talk about how we're doing our radio show now and our podcast and some of the gear and software we're using for that. I mean, you can be as simple as you want, or if you want to go a little more pro and easy pro, we'll show you some of the stuff that we're using at this point. I'll just take this thing off here and just kind of give a glance. So in my setup here in my my home studio, I am using a more higher end condenser mic, and there's two different types of mics out there as far as inputs. I guess I shouldn't unplug the mic when I'm showing. So there's USB mics and there's also condenser mics as well. Condenser mics have the larger round inputs, and that's what most of the professional studios use. So typically a better audio quality with mics. There's like condenser mics like this, and there's also dynamic mics. For professional purposes, I prefer the condenser mics because they just give kind of a nicer tone and deeper tone to your voice. But that being said, there are a lot of dynamic mics out there that do pretty good quality well. The one we're using here, John, I think has one as well, is a condenser mic from Rode, which is a really great audio company. Also got a little pop filter on here too to get rid of all the the P's and things like that when you're recording. John, did you want to add something?
Well, yeah, I was just going to talk about the pop filter, but also try not to get right up close to your microphone. Try to give yourself some distance to it, and you're going to have to sort of play with that just so that it sounds a little bit more natural. And you're not always going to have the ability to control it with a mixer. So just have a little bit of distance from it so that you're not spitting right into the microphone. Unless you're a rock star, you don't need to get that close.
As far as recording, there's a lot of great software tools out there that allow you to record right into your laptop or computer. I use Audacity all the time, and that's a great way to basically hook in a microphone to your PC. You can take Skype calls and things like that. If you want to take it to the next level and just really add a professional touch and honestly make it a lot easier for recording things, this is probably one of the best out in the market. It's a bit of money. This thing's about $800. It's called the Rodecaster Pro. And this is basically a full radio / podcasting studio, like all in one unit. You can hook this up to your computer and do some tweaking through there. But if you wanted to, you can record everything on this one little unit itself. And I'll just go through some of the features here just to kind of give you an idea. And what I love about this is I'm not like a big audio engineer or anything. I would say I'm pretty like a beginner level on that. This thing was probably the easiest thing I've ever set up and used, and it made me sound really, really good. It's got basically 8 channels on it, so like 8 different ways to get audio in. I've got the 4 channels here. These are the channel levels that adjust the overall volume of the inputs. So you can have 4 microphones hooked into this at the same time. So if you've at an event and you want to do a podcast, you could have 4 microphones set up into this and adjust the different levels. It also has another channel here that you basically hook a USB cable into your laptop, for example. So if you wanted to, you could take Skype calls and things like that, which makes it really easy again to get remote guests on the line. There is an input if you wanted to hook like an iPhone or an Android phone directly in, if you wanted to take calls that way. I typically don't use that. I use the Bluetooth option if I'm doing a call, like a remote call. So you can use the Bluetooth to, again, wirelessly connect to a smartphone to take calls to bring in here. And finally, on the side, these are a lot of fun. These are the sound pads. And you can actually program these things to do different things. I'll show you up here. And you can either record them right into the unit itself through a microphone, or if you've got a computer, you can actually add stuff in here. So I've got all our intros and little sound effects in here. So just as an example, this is our intro for our Get Connected radio show. Turn that off. So you can put sound effects, you can put your music, your show intros. If you've got pre-recorded interviews as well, you could also put those into the sound pads. And basically, when you come to that particular part of your podcast, you can basically just hit the button and it will record right into the unit. As far as recording, it takes little mini SD cards, which is really handy. That you can then take and then put into a computer for further editing, which we'll talk a little bit about. But what I love about this is just, again, how simple it is to use. Everything's on a touch screen up here. Go into the settings. If I've already recorded some segments or podcasts, and that will show the different ones that I have. I can scroll through them and listen to them. Unfortunately, it blanks out my microphone when I do that. And this is kind of cool too. So I can either go into channels, or I can sit. This is the channel I'm on right now. If I click on that, and again, I love how easy the settings are. I can go into microphone, for example, and tell it what kind of microphone I have. There's presets for a number of different microphones. I can go into voice, and here's tone and strength. And so right now, I've got it on deep. Apparently I have a deeper voice. You can set it to medium or high. If it's a higher voice, just to kind of optimize it for recording. I can go into advanced. I don't even know what half these things mean, but they make me sound great, and I love it. So, things like a compressor. There's also other types of effects here that, again, optimize your voice going in and make you sound like a pro. I love this one here, the noise gate feature. This will try to eliminate any of the background noise. So, if you got your refrigerator going, or someone's got the tap on in the background, it will try to hone in on the voice and get rid of that background noise, which is a great feature. And what's cool too now is they've got all sorts of new accessories, including a battery feature for this, John, right?
That's right. Yeah, they have it's a little adapter that lets you use a power bank, so you can be completely unwired with this setup and take it, in the middle of a show floor or an event, and where you don't have an outlet even, and you can have it working just fine. And it's hard to tell from the video, but it actually is quite portable. It's just about the size of a bigger laptop, and it's pretty robust. We've flung this thing around a lot. We've dragged it down to Vegas for conferences and things like that, and it's been a champ.
So again, yeah, it is a bit of money. I mean, $800, that's a bit of coin, but this is probably the best and stupidest simple mixing / podcast board that we have seen yet on the market. So it's made our life a whole lot easier, and we can literally record the show anywhere. So typically we've had this down in our studio, at our office to record everything. But again, it's so nice that I've been able to take this home to record all of the shows. And again, because of that USB feature here into the computer, we also video record all of our video podcast. So I can actually have all the guests and the hosts, including John, when we're doing our radio show recording on a Zoom call, which is fantastic. So It'll record all the audio into the board itself, and then we can also record the Zoom video and basically have our video podcast ready to go. And John, that is in HD now as well.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, the big thing about the Rodecaster was the fact that it's about, I think, 5 different devices that if you were to buy them separately would probably be well over $1,000. And this is just one unit that has sort of everything built in. You may not need everything that this thing can do, and there is certainly less expensive options out there, especially if you want to just do something really quick and dirty. Your basic laptop does most of that work for you, but if you don't want to bring your laptop to an event, this is definitely some pro level audio gear that is definitely worthy of for broadcast if you need to, and certainly for podcasts. And all the features that Mike sort of highlighted normally would be in separate little boxes or computer programs, that kind of thing. And this sort of just ties it all together. And basically, you don't even need a computer anymore. So
I think that's the key thing. If you don't want to monkey around, editing all the audio, you just want something that you can bring somewhere and it can record everything like onto one SD card. If you want to get crazy, you can even do multi-channel recording, so you could edit that stuff after. But I don't even do that. I just have it record basically all onto one SD card, and it's good to go. If I want to get a little crazier and edit, and mix in other audio, I also use let's see if I can do this at the same time here, so I can see what I'm doing. A program called Audacity on my Windows PC. This is available on all the major platforms, Windows and Macintosh. You can take the SD card out of the Rodecaster and basically drop the different audio segments into the unit itself. And again, I wasn't an audio expert, but Audacity is probably one of the best free sound programs out there. And it's actually, just if you monkey around with it a bit, spend a couple hours, you would be surprised at how good you can get at auditing or editing audio. So I use this to edit out all the ums and the pauses, just to tighten up my podcasts and my radio shows. And from here, I can save them as an MP3 and basically send that out to the radio stations that I work with. And, we also use that for our...
I think Mike glitched out there a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely the easiest way for us to edit all of our audio. Mike touched on the fact that it has multi-track capabilities as well. When we pull the audio out of the Rodecaster, for example, you'll have a separate channel for each guest. And that gives you the ability then to go and say someone has a really quiet microphone, for example, if you have a remote guest, you have the ability then in Audacity to go in and sort of boost their audio so you can make it match everybody else's. So everyone sounds like they're in the same room at the same time, even if they're not. Mike, are you working again?
I got my audio working again. One of the technical challenges. Sorry, John, where did you leave off?
Just about the being able to adjust and boost any quiet guests if we have the separate audio tracks if we needed to.
Another program we have been trying for recording podcasts. It's kind of a newer one. It's called Squadcast, and you might have a look at that. It's a cloud-based podcasting software package that you can basically use through a web browser. We're still kind of tinkering around with it, but it's kind of neat because you can basically have, I think, up to 4 guests on there. They can all log in. You can send them out invites from the Squadcast platform, and it then records everything up to the cloud, which is kind of a nice feature. So what's happening is that it'll record your audio locally on all the different machines, no matter where they are. And then afterwards, it will assemble all of those, if you want, into one mix. Or into separate channels. So in case I have a crappy connection going on, I can still get the local versions of all the different voice recordings, and then bring them in and mix them back on my computer, so that I'm not worrying about losing any of the quality.
That's probably the biggest challenge we've had during our current situation is everyone is taxing the internet, and we're all relying on Zoom for recording our shows. Quite often we will have a guest that is glitching or something like that. So either if it's really bad, we'll just stop, because we're not doing this stuff live, we're doing it live to tape, and then we'll just wait until their internet fixes itself, or they can log out and log back in, that type of thing. But something like Squadcast is a very promising feature. It just doesn't have a very robust set of video tools. So we've had to sort of go back to Zoom for that, because we needed to be able to record the video and the audio at the same time.
Yeah, the interesting thing with Zoom as well, and compared to the Squadcast. So Squadcast was kind of cool, but I think it was like $50 a month for it. So I mean, if you're in the business of recording stuff, I mean, it's basically a tool you need to use. So money well spent. But I just found, like, using Zoom, and even the free version, it did basically the same thing for free. Obviously you got to worry about the time limitation on the free one. So I think it's 40 minutes, John. Is that right?
Yeah. We've also used Skype as well. Skype's been really good. We haven't had much luck with Google Meet or Microsoft Teams as far as quality. And we tried them all. We have access to them all, but we just keep going back to Zoom because it just seems to be the most stable, the easiest for everyone to get into, and has the quality level that we need. We'd like a little bit better quality video, but it is what it is. So,
one thing I would like to mention, if you are going to be doing any type of podcast, be prepared while you're doing it. We've been doing obviously the radio show for many, many years now. And every week we make sure that we have a full call sheet and rundown ready to go with all the information that we need to make that particular podcast or radio program. So everything from the guest's full name, their title, a brief biography on them as well. And for the radio show, we have to time it out properly. So, how long each segment's got to be. And we also include links to more information about the guest or the topic that we're talking about. So again, that all the information is basically on one piece of paper, or our case, we have it up on a Google sheet that we can basically click on the links to go through to different things. So it makes a dramatic difference in being prepared, and again, having everyone's proper name, titles, so that when you're doing it, you can sound professional when you're putting it all together, basically. And as far as us, I don't know if you talked about it, John, where we put our radio show to broadcast. Curious Cast is one of the places to send it.
No, I didn't. No. Yeah. So when basically we do the edits for the radio show, Mike gives it to CKNW, and then they publish it out through the podcast system called Curious Cast, and then that system publishes it to all the things like iTunes, Spotify, Google, pretty much anywhere you can get a podcast. They have a reach for, and it's a paid service. But the nice thing is that it archives everything. You have a little browser-based embeddable player for that. But it's just one of many services that offer that kind of functionality. So it makes it easy for people to get that. The other thing that we've started doing, I guess last fall, Mike, was the video podcast as well. And we've been trying to make it so that give people as many options to listen as they can, listen and watch. So they can watch it or listen to it live on the radio. At the same time, we also do a premiere on YouTube. And sometimes we do a watch party on Facebook. And we also make it available as a podcast, typically just shortly after the show airs. And then we take any featured interviews from that weekend show, and we then sprinkle them out in the following weeks as a separate segment on our YouTube channel as well.
Important thing when you are posting any of your content as a podcast, make sure that you have descriptions for each of your podcasts, like like a summary of what you're going to be talking about, and also a graphic or an icon for your brand or your podcast. So it's visually appealing if someone is searching through hundreds, if not thousands, of potential podcasts in a library. So again, super important description and a little icon or graphic on that. And like John said, we do these podcasts and radio shows. They're typically about 45 minutes long, and we get a lot of use out of them. Obviously, we got the long format, but we also chop them up as well into different segments. So this is great if you want to really get the best bang for your buck when you're doing any type of content. Obviously, you can have the full version, but then you can break them out into smaller segments as well. And if you've got the right microphone and stuff, you can obviously do new intros and outros for those smaller segments, whether you're using up on YouTube or other social areas like Instagram or Facebook as well. So we post the full versions, and then we chop them all up, and throughout the week we'll create a little blog about each one as well, and use that up on our social channels just to get the maximum return on the time we're putting into all of this. Anything you want to add to that, John?
No, I think that's about it. And I think we might even be over time.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. You probably already have the tools in your hands now. Even just using a basic laptop and a half decent microphone, you could start monkeying around and trying your own podcast. I would listen to some of your favorite ones and see how they are doing it. As far as the format and the pacing and then the tone. And if you want to get to that next level, have a look at some of the gear that we showed today. This Rodecaster Pro has made my life 100 times easier from how we used to produce this in the past because of.
You should mention how you used to do it.
Well, I would have to, from our office every day, every couple of days, go up to the CKNW studio. And because it was difficult to get all the guests in one sitting, I would go up there, and basically spend an hour recording a 5-minute segment, get that MP3, send it back to my computer, edit it. It took me a lot of time. So now, because I've got this all in one unit here, it's brought it down like tenfold, which has been great. So hopefully that was some bits of information or nuggets that you can use. Honestly, just try it. Like, again, I'm not an audio guy by any stretch, but, just monkeying around with, an audio program like Audacity, that's a great one for recording stuff as well on your laptop or your computer. Just mess around with it. There's tutorials online on YouTube on how to use the different features, literally thousands of videos on that. It's not as hard as you think, and you'll learn a lot along the way, and it's fun to be creative. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John and Mike. That was incredibly informative. Even for someone who isn't planning on doing a podcast, now I kind of want to try. We have received a few questions during the session I'd love to throw out to you guys. John or Mike, whoever wants to answer them, you guys kind of take the ball. I'll get us started. Our first question that came through was, it's kind of a couple in one, but what made you get into radio? Where did it all start? And was it natural to move into podcasts?
Yeah, that's a great question. I used to be a computer sales guy back in the 90s. I worked at a computer store called Doppler Computers. I worked with Dave Chalk, who owned it. And we were always trying to come up with innovative ways to market the store. And so one of the ideas after a few beers one night, we thought, well, we want to get people excited about computers. There's so many cool things you can do, but people are still intimidated. They weren't as friendly back then, to get into. So we thought, I bet we should, try to get a radio show. And so we contacted CKNW and said, hey, we want to do a computer show. they thought we were crazy, but we were on them for like months, and finally they let us on and gave us some crazy time slot. But it just went from there, and it was very, very successful. We turned it into a call-in show, and we were inundated with calls because, you know, back then, you know, it's a little more complicated. So we spent the whole hour just taking questions and calls on the program, and it's kind of gone up from there. Now, the Get Connected show is like the #1 tech show in Canada, and typically the #1 show in its time slot on the weekends as well, against every other radio station in the market. And it goes right across Western Canada. As far as podcasts, yeah, that was just kind of a natural thing. We started podcasting the radio program back a few years ago, and now we're looking into you know, making a specific podcast. We've been doing that for the Get Connected brand. So you know, it's been interesting because you know, in the past I had you know, studio engineers. When I went in to do it live, they would look after everything. Then I started pre-taping them because I didn't want to drive downtown every Saturday. But then I had to learn how to edit all the stuff myself, and you know, it wasn't that much of a stretch. I caught on pretty quickly.
I'll just add that I'm a little bit more recent to the radio side of things. About 5 years ago, I was kind of regularly asked by News 1130 to comment on various tech stories, and then it turned into this little show that we would do called, well, back then it was Tech Tuesdays, and now it's Wired Wednesdays. And basically it's like a mini version of what Mike and I do on Get Connected, where I have a couple of stories that we talk about and the tech implications of them, things that people need to know or might not have heard of. And it's a very casual conversation, which I find is the most accessible way for people to get into technology stuff, because it's really easy to go down the nerd rabbit hole and just start talking over everybody's head. Whereas the more casual conversations that we have, it's just like if you and I went for a coffee kind of thing. And that's really kind of the basis for a lot of podcasts, is this casual conversation that you're sort of sitting at the table with the guests and the hosts and sort of learning something new. And so it's really easy and really accessible for people to get into, whether it's recorded for radio or a podcast or for video.
And just one quick addition. I get a question a lot of times, like, how can I get my own radio show on radio stations? Well, it's difficult, obviously. There's only so many radio stations and so much time. I mean, one way is to buy time. I mean, if you wanted to buy an hour of time on a local radio station on a weekly basis, you know, that goes anywhere from, depending how popular the radio station is in the time slot, from like $1,000 a week and upwards. Or, you know, if you just want to try to be a subject matter expert, I would just find all the local radio stations' news producers and get their contact information, and don't be crazy and inundate them every single day. But, you know, if there's something very topical in your field that, you know, you think you'd be an expert on and you'd be able to talk to, you know, I'd send them like a little news release to these producers, and, you know, say why this is important, you know, for the listeners to hear about, and why, you know, you think you can bring a unique voice or perspective on it. And so just keep going. Like, you know, they have to feed the beast. They continually have to get you know, news segments going on. So they're always looking for content and opportunity.
I would love to ask another question, unless any of my other hosts have a question pending. I don't want to steal the screen too much. Yvonne, Stephen.
I'll take one if you're opening up the floor.
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So either John or Mike, if either one of you are more of the video experts, I kind of want to hear your opinion on how we could reduce video flickering in our webcams, because I noticed that sometimes when I sign on to Zoom, I get a pretty drastic flickering with the green, the flashing of the greens, the reds, and everything else. But then as soon as more people come on, I think Zoom corrects itself somehow. So I'd like to listen to your opinion on how, A, what causes that, and B, how you can reduce it. Thanks.
John, any thoughts there?
That sounds like more of a bandwidth issue with the Zoom side of things. I don't see any flickering when I log in, and I run at least 5 or 6 Zoom meetings a day. So that might just be either your computer. The other thing that a lot of people don't realize is that you can actually use like an iPad or your iPhone to run a Zoom, and then you can still use your computer for something else while you're on the call. Try a different device to see if that reduces the problem, Stephen. And but yeah, it sounds like a bandwidth or a computer processing issue, because I certainly haven't seen it. And I'm using a 4-year-old MacBook Pro.
Okay, and lighting has nothing to do with it either. It's just to do with maybe with the hardware.
I think it's a user error. I think Stephen's doing it wrong.
I am tinkering. You know, that's the whole point of tech, right? You got to tinker.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm a tech tinker
John brought
kind of
up a
guy.
good point. With any tech problem, you got to try to isolate the issue. So I would try a different camera to see if that's what's doing it. Lighting makes a huge difference. You know, I would invest in one of these ring lights if you're going to be doing lots of Zoom meetings, or if you're just going to be recording your own videos that you'll be putting on YouTube or your website. Lighting is everything. I mean, try to use natural lighting if you've got that. But these ring lights, you know, for $25 to $50, they make a huge difference. I'm ugly without it. Like, I'm horrible looking. So
don't cut yourself short. You're a very good looking man.
No, I'm not. Lighting makes all the difference.
It also hides wrinkles.
Sorry, go ahead, John.
I was just gonna say it also hides wrinkles if you're all washed out with light.
You do have to be careful with it's light fatigue that people are saying it's Zoom fatigue or whatever. It's just too many monitors on, or you know, we have to be careful and mindful that our bodies are very susceptible to too much or too little light. Yeah, so ring lights. Watch your eyeballs, people. Please.
The other thing too, just to add to Mark's point, there is. The light I'm using actually has a natural light bulb in it. It's not just a regular light bulb, but you can actually get different color temperature lights.
Yeah, I just got a full spectrum. Here, I'll show you right now.
Yeah.
I just came back from the gym though, so there you go.
I just came back from the gym.
I just came back.
I'm all buff.
Wow, I see.
Right?
But
I
every
can
pore.
also change the color temperature as well.
Yeah.
You know, so that nighttime, because like, you know, too much blue light.
Yeah, that's the thing is having too much of that artificial light, and like you said, all the screen. I actually have 3 screens in front of me, plus the lighting, plus a big window right here, and it can be a lot. And it's nice to go sit in a dark corner on my couch later. So
yeah, I found another solution to Zoom fatigue. I'll just punch this up on my virtual background here. I recorded myself for a minute. Let's see if I can get this going. Come on, work.
You got to keep talking, Mike.
I created a looping video of myself just to see if this would work one day for my Zoom meetings, and and no one figured out that I was not there when I went into these meetings. I still was listening in audio and I was talking because I had a little portable headset going, but essentially, hello.
This is the best thing I have ever seen.
Oh my God, that
and
is genius.
I need this.
What's so easy?
I think it's a mic thing. It's a mic thing because Mike Cavers from Character Guy did this, and like he would have himself like in a scene that he pre-recorded and get all crazy. So yeah, that's awesome, Michael.
And yeah, and you know what? Occasionally I would have to say something and, you know, chime in with some answers, and no one noticed that my lips weren't moving. It was amazing.
I've even seen someone come in and like hand themselves a coffee, and like the mug that they had recorded with, they like pick up underneath. It's great. We do have another question from Sean from PCMA. He's wondering if he wanted to assemble like a speaker kit to send to a speaker prior to like a Zoom kind of webinar type thing, what should be included in it?
You mean like from a hardware perspective?
Like what, like should we give them like requirements of hardware that they need, or
Gotcha.
Like tips on how to present? Or
I mean, I think it's basically the stuff that we listed at the top. You know, a good, ideally external webcam if they have one, unless they have a really good HD camera built into their laptop. A good microphone, whether it's USB or an XLR like Mike and I are using, just some good audio source. The absolute minimum would be proper earbuds with a microphone on it, at least for a Zoom call. That actually
Are these small enough?
Yeah, I have my big headphones over there, but the virtual background tends to look a little strange when half of my head disappears. But yeah, just having the minimum viable product would be a dedicated mic and headphones, not using the onboard open air speaker. I'm using my open air speaker right now. You know, we're not doing this for broadcast, for at least for us, and it seems to do a pretty good job of balancing out that stuff. And I don't think you're getting any echo from me. But certainly having a good set of headphones, a good microphone, and a good camera, and some light, some kind. But also going back to positioning, especially if it's a keynote speaker or someone that, you know, they're probably already going to do this, but make sure that they've got their setup in such a way that it's flattering to them, showing them straight on, so they can actually really connect with the audience.
Yeah, and just honestly, just these earbuds, they make a night and day difference. So if they don't want to, you know, have like the giant headphones on like Mark there, you know, again, we're recording radio shows, and you know, when I have them put on just even simple earbuds like this, it just, again, it just changes everything. It's way better than using the microphone on your laptop. And get a ring light. Ring lights are cheap, $25 to $50. It makes a world of difference.
Great, thank you.
Do we have any other questions from the host? Otherwise, I'll move on to my next question, if that's okay.
Sure.
It's all about placement though, right, Mike?
Exactly.
Before actually we move on, I just have a personal question. I invested in a ring light from Amazon that I can clip onto my thing. It's pretty. Yeah. It's like a $20 thing. It's not that great. Do you use a brand of ring light that you would suggest, and where you purchased it? Something that everyone here could easily find?
Yeah, the ring light that I got, it was just an Amazon brand. I think your one that you showed, I mean, it's okay, but it's pretty small. I would get like a bigger one.
Yeah.
John, how big is your? Yeah, same thing there.
I think this is like 6 inches or 5 inches. Yeah. Most of them are, they're all kind of the same. They're all made in the same factory. There is definitely some higher end ones. Elgato makes, this is for the streamers like on Twitch and Mixer. They sell some very expensive LED lighting specifically for this type of thing. But they're in the $200 to $300 range, and they're basically light panels. And there's a bunch of different options you can get. I don't think this will show from my virtual background, but this is literally, I won't show because it's all light. It's a maybe a $20 box that you put a light bulb inside, and it basically does the same thing as a ring light, but it takes up a lot more space. And again, even a window it does wonders, right? So it just depends on the time of day. The problem that we do when we do the radio shows, sometimes we do it at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I have a balcony window right here, and the sun comes straight in, so it looks like I'm getting laser beam focused by the sun, so I have to close my blinds, and that obviously changes the lighting situation as well. So the time of the day of the call, if you're using natural lighting, also matters too.
Did you see what I did? I opened the windows, I turned this to a different spectrum. I just got a tan.
Living the
dream. Reflection off your shirt must be just...
No, but to John's point, you can spend thousands of dollars on these lights. But I would honestly, I'd just go on Amazon. I would get a big one and just look at the reviews. That's how I went on this one. $50 is the best $50 I ever spent, and it got good reviews. And
it's Amazon, so you can probably easily return it if it doesn't work out for you.
Excellent. Okay.
Actually, I saw your question about wired versus wireless.
Yes.
Generally, we would recommend wireless, because anytime we have someone on with wireless, we'd recommend wired. Anytime someone's on with wireless, that's right when their AirPods die. Especially for some of these calls that can go on a lot longer than you think, and you don't realize how much battery life some of these small wireless buds have. And Bluetooth always just adds another variable to the equation that's going to fail right when you don't need it to fail.
Fair enough. That's excellent to know. Thank you. I'm obviously wired right now. Okay, I have another question from our audience. Question is, have you seen or used a drone to shoot video for a live Zoom event?
No.
John, you're a drone man.
I am. I have a DJI drone, and the only options that I'm aware of that they support, and they're probably the better drone brand because they have a lot of safety features. It's a really solid product. They can only do Facebook Live and maybe YouTube. I'm not aware of a Zoom that you could do. The other thing is most of these drones, you're lucky if you get 10, 15 minutes of battery life before you have to bring it down anyways. So, and I don't know how you'd participate in a Zoom call with a drone because you're going to be busy flying, not paying attention to what's going on.
What could go wrong?
Right.
It's a good way to lose your drone.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I'll look into that more.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had another question. Since we're talking about drones, I love robots. Safe drones, remember the big Orca from the Canucks? Do they have any smaller, blimpier type versions that don't lacerate people?
I'm not sure.
Nobody knows? Okay.
No, sorry.
Great question.
John continues.
Yeah, so one more question from my end, and then I'm going to open the floor back up to the other hosts so that I don't feel like I'm hogging. The question is, and I feel like you did touch on this. I don't know how much more detail they want, but I know that you talked about it a little bit. What Rode mixer is the one that Michael was showing us, and did you buy it online at Rode?
It's called the Rodecaster Pro. There's only one version of this thing, so it's pretty simple. John, you bought it. Where did you get it?
I got it on Amazon. Yeah. But you can also get it at any music store. Long and McQuaid, Tom Lee, they all sell it as well. Maybe London Drugs as well. But yeah, we bought it on Amazon because we weren't sure it was going to fit our needs. And again, it's Amazon. You can easily return it if it doesn't.
I would recommend, if you're going to be lugging this thing around, and I'm searching for that right now, is get a case for it. So from what I've seen online, they've got some nice industrial strength cases in about the $200 to $300 range that would hold the Rodecaster and a couple of microphones as well for going out on the road.
Yeah, we used a Pelican case to take it to Vegas for CES when we were doing our radio shows live from down there.
Excellent, excellent. I will open up the floor to our other hosts to get a chance to ask any questions from their fellow organizations.
Well, I'll just find one from the chat because I don't think there's any ILEA people on here right now. So we have a question from Azim. What is the difference between a condenser mic versus a dynamic mic?
Are you better at that, John? I've got like
I think you covered it before, but
knowledge.
Yeah, same with me too. I mean, it's basically it's the range and what it's meant for picking up. When you're looking to buy a microphone, and I see someone also is asking about USB microphones as well. Get one that's specifically for voice, if that's the intent. There's a lot of microphones out there that are meant for other purposes, whether it's for capturing live audience audio or instruments and that type of thing. So they're tuned very differently. Just get one that's, you know, they're the way they market them now, it's like podcasting or voice microphone. We use condenser mics. I've bought a couple on Amazon that were not very good. They were very inexpensive, but compared to this one, this mic is by itself. This is the Rode NT1A, I believe is the model number. And it's about $150. It's $250 with the stand and all the other stuff that you need to actually make it useful. But it's it's night and day difference from the $20 to $60 mics I've seen out there. I don't really have a lot of experience with USB microphones because we use the XLR ones. Just as a well, I can't hold it up because it'll unplug if I do that, but I use a Zoom, not the web conferencing tool, but it's an audio tool. It's a Zoom H1N is my audio interface for this particular microphone. And you can buy them again at music stores or Amazon. And they have a bunch of different models of it that allows you to plug in an XLR microphone into your computer through a USB port, which is what I'm doing right now. And I've had this one for about 5 years. I used to have my own tech podcast, and it does great for just a 2 microphone setup, and it just records everything in a little portable unit. And I prefer that than getting a USB microphone. I was never really happy with the quality of them, but I haven't tried the higher end USB microphones. They might have evolved.
One thing, check out the Rode website. They've got all sorts of great microphones and podcasting microphones. Another one we use a lot as well if we're going to an event and we're trying to capture interviews just using our smartphones, like our iPhones. They've got a little package called the Rode Wireless Go, and this is a transmitter and a receiver. You hook one part of it up to your smartphone. And then you hook the other one. I think it's got a microphone built right into it, doesn't it, John?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's gone.
Oh, he's gone.
I went to get it.
Oh,
Oh, there you go.
I'll tell you, this thing is freaking amazing, and I love it.
Yeah, so there's 2 parts to it. This is a wireless mic, and there's also a transceiver that you plug into your device, and they talk to each other. And the great thing about this is that it's super small. You get about 8 hours of battery life with this. It has a built-in microphone that works like a lav, so you can actually clip it on your shirt and it works great that way. But it also has a port on it, so you can plug in a lav if you want to do that as well.
Or an external microphone.
Yeah. So like when Mike and I were down at CES, he'd have this plugged in, either using it this way, or he would have a stick mic or even a lav if we wanted to do that. And I could just plug it into an SLR or any other camera. We also use some DJI stuff. There's the Osmo Mobile for filming with your smartphone. And then there's the Osmo Pocket, which is basically the same camera system that's in the drones in a little handheld stick. I can go run and grab it. It's in the other room, but it's a really nice...
While I talk about that. So that made my life so much easier. We go to tons of these tech conferences all the time, and we just like to kind of capture a few interviews, maybe even B-roll on the go. And so it's nice just to be able to have your smartphone and that little Rode Mobile Go microphone, because as you know, in these conferences, it's like super loud. So being able to have a fairly professional quality mic that's wireless that can plug into a DSLR or your smartphone is just a godsend. So John,
we were in the Samsung booth at CES in Las Vegas, and there was like 1 billion people around us, and you can't even tell when Mike's doing his stand-up. We were able to record it with a smartphone and that wireless Go microphone, and it was fantastic. So this is the gimbal system that they have as well. See if you can see that. So you put your smartphone in here, and then you plug in your audio as well, and then you can basically film it with a Steadicam. That's one way. We got this as well. Mike and I went to China, and we shot almost everything with this.
That thing was amazing.
Yeah. So this allowed me to film in a very steady way. It has a jack on the bottom, so we could actually plug the wireless Go into that as well. So the mic could be wired wireless. I have really great audio, 4K video. You're done.
How much was the little one there again?
The Pocket is, I think, about $400, maybe $500, and then the mobile, which uses your smartphone, is about $150.
Yeah, that's a must-have. It's like a Steadicam for your smartphone. It makes it so smooth like.
And you can even, there's a number of interesting things you can do with it. Like you can track. So on your phone, you'll be able to draw a box around, say, your host, and if he walks anywhere, you just have to hold the system. The system will track him and follow along and frame him properly in the shot, which is, it's like easy mode for a camera person.
That is incredibly informative, and I'm going to go out and buy mine now. I have a shaky hand on my iPhone, so this is great. I just want to say that is our time for today, and I just want to thank John and Mike for your time. It was incredibly informative, and I think on behalf of our audience and our hosts, we cannot wait to listen to your next podcast and listen to your radio show, and hopefully have you on again for a live session in the future. Look for on all our websites for our organizations for future ETU live sessions. They will be posted. And yeah, thank you very much for today, and hope to see you next time.
Thanks for having us. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for coming on. This has been great. It's been a lot of fun. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Just one last thing. The Steadicam is DJI. Both versions of those cameras that I showed were from DJI.
Is it possible to just get like a list of recommendations for at-home stuff afterwards that we can send to the registrants?
For everyone's spare money.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. This will also be VOD, video on demand later. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.